Mercury. I am your interplanetary host, Travis Montgomery. These views reflect one planet and one planet alone.
What's up, everybody? Going live again. No guest tonight, but something else I wanted to talk about on the solo tip very fast. Wanted to get a couple ideas out of this noggin, and we have some great interviews coming up. So last Friday, I believe it was, we found out about the suicide of Anthony Bourdain, somebody who I'm a very big fan of, somebody who I kind of looked up to in the aspect of best job in the world, possibly. You know, somebody who, as a kid, wasn't too adventurous in the foods that I'd like to try, and as I grew older as an adult, I became more adventurous, and watching his show kind of made me a little bit jealous of his lifestyle and what he's able to do. Go around, travel the country, drink. Even when you go to like a spot in the middle of the Sahara Desert where you're digging a hole to bury the meat that you just hunted and slaughtered and all that. So, Anthony Bourdain, great life. To say that I was surprised that he committed suicide would be an understatement. And even looking at his last Twitter posts and stuff like that, my first thought was conspiracy. After digging into it a little bit more, I haven't exactly taken it off the table, but finding out that he had just split up with his wife and stuff like that, his wife being with someone else, him being a romanticizing suicide in his early years when he was a drug addict, kind of made it somewhat more graspable, if that's a word, for me. But a couple of things to expand on that, which could be related in some people's eyes, could not be related in some people's eyes. There's been a definite spike in suicide. Robin Williams, for me, was another tough one, but apparently he had some form of mental illness, very rare, that is undetectable until you open up someone's brain. So Robin Williams committed suicide, and everyone was like, well, yeah, he was going through a divorce and taking all these damn bad movie roles and stuff like that. So when I heard about this Anthony Bourdain and you know, it's like the guy has the best job in the world, and so I'm going to try and tie a couple things here together. And it may not make sense for Anthony Bourdain's case, but it might make sense in the realm of the kind of social climate that we're living in today, which is, school shootings, mental health, over-drugging, social media. They may not be directly all interrelated, but in some form they are a big part of what our society is today. And I think there's a problem there, especially for younger kids that want to be on social media. And again, I'm going to jump around here a little bit. And you put yourself at risk for the bullying, or you put yourself at risk for seeing parts of humanity that we haven't been set up to digest, you know, as a species. We couldn't really see, even 50 years ago, we couldn't see a beheading in Saudi Arabia. So I think there's a lot of these key elements, and not that has to do anything with Anthony Bourdain's suicide, but I think there's some stuff in our social climate that has some relevance, and there's some interlocking parts in this Venn diagram. Anthony Bourdain, like I get the best job in the world. I remember when I was off of work, which I am right now, but I had a routine. I would go run the dog. I would go make myself like a light lunch, like soup or something, and then I'd sit down and I'd watch the newest episode. His first one, No Reservations was the first one, and the last one, when he finally got to CNN, which was a big break for him. and I was really happy for him to do that. So it was a big part of me being on unemployment was watching his show, and I would joke about it, and then I had lunch with Anthony Bourdain, because I dug his program. I dug looking at different foods, looking at different landscape lines, and it's just I'm not going to roll out the part that Alex. I'm not. And this is my first thought on it. Whoa, here we go. We're falling in love here. My first thought was conspiracy, because the guy that had it that good, who seemed that happy, was snarky, cynical at times. I didn't expect him to do something like that. But now we're gonna tread into the deep waters here, and then we're gonna come right back. With him and Kate Spade and the leader of Lincoln Park, I wish I could remember his name, and Chris Cornell. A lot of people say they were all on the hot tracks of these big pedophile rings, and a lot of people saying that they were getting ready to come out with some information, and then all of a sudden committed suicide. And you can also tie that into the Hillary Clinton crowd of people that happened to commit suicide, shoot themselves in the back of the head twice, run their car off a road when they had absolutely no reason to do so. So it gets a little squirrely for me in that sense that, and then just he was getting ready to shoot a show in France with one of the world-renowned chef. So, in the age of the internet where we feel like we know everything, we will never probably really know what happened. I don't even know the cause of death for Anthony Bourdain. I didn't look into it that much, but just the fact of him committing suicide was something troubling to me. There's a huge mental health problem going on in this country right now. I don't think social media is helping. I think social media is aggravating it, where you get to see people living these kind of bling bling lifestyles, and then even those people that are living the bling bling lifestyles, where they have all the money in the world, and they still probably aren't the happiest in the world, but their pictures and their posts would tell you that they are living this kind of lifestyle that is desirable, which most people are. I mean, most people want to have more money and that does equal a better lifestyle. Hi, Nita. I hope you're having a great night. So, the end of financial problems doesn't necessarily mean the end of problems as a whole for anyone. In some cases, like winning the lottery, these people end up going broke within a year, and they think that it would be like giving a 3-year-old $100 at an arcade, or just to go run off in life, and then in 2 weeks they owe $300 or something like that. It's crazy. And social media. What's up, Mr. Curry? And social media, for as much good as it's caused for movements and spreading information, it's a symptom of a huge problem of mental health in America. I think it ties in with the school shootings. We talk about people that are jealous of other people. That not only do you have to see all these popular kids doing this popular stuff on campus and at school and at parties and stuff, but then you get to go home, and then maybe these same people are talking crap to you. And I don't know what was wrong with Anthony Bourdain, but it was really shocking to me that he did that, because again, like as cynical as he was about life and certain things of that nature, it didn't seem right to me, and I was wrong for automatically assuming conspiracy when I heard it. It was late Friday night. Do the math. It rubbed me the wrong way, and it seems like, I don't know. I wasn't around 50 years ago. Were celebrities offing themselves at this fucking clip? Chris Cornell, fucking Robin Williams. God, the guy, leader of Linkin Park, I can't think of it. Although, if you look at his lyrics, that dude was screaming for help for a long time. So there's a mental health issue in this country that needs to be solved. I don't think that you do that with more medication. I think exercise and positivity and healthy eating would probably do a lot of people good on the wrong side of the mental health argument or spectrum, however you want to say it. There's a lot of people that try to over-medicate, and now you get symptoms from one drug, and then all of a sudden you go to your doctor. Well, this is causing this. Oh, well, we'll give you another pill to help you there. No. The time that I've been the most depressed in my life is when I exercise and I get those natural endorphins, going, and I feel much better about myself after a run rather than when I woke up and I was depressed about something. Getting those natural endorphins going, not eating like shit, making you feel like you did something for the day, something better for yourself, which, we could all do a lot of. I certainly can do that right now at this point in my life. I think that there's problems out there, and there's more answers than people realize, and over-medicating people is not an answer. I think just going for a run or a good walk might be better than taking a prescription medication for depression or even anxiety. And I'm not, but then again, Anthony Bourdain was, I think, a purple belt, brown belt in jiu-jitsu, and so was his wife, that I guess left him for some journalist, and maybe that caused him to go down some rabbit hole where he went back to heroin or he was drinking too much. But it still doesn't make sense to me, and probably never will. And maybe suicide is not supposed to make sense. But there's a mental health aspect, like Joe Rogan says, disguised as a gun problem in this country. We've had guns forever in this country, and we haven't had this amount of school shootings and stuff like that, not at least at the rate that it's gone down since Columbine, which was in 1999. Now, another thing to inject into this equation is that the Board of Education started in the 1980s, and the quality of education has gone down ever since. So maybe the government program is not the way to go. Government programs, on its face, have not really done a lot of good stuff for us on a wide scale. But anyways, just this mental health issue that's going on in this country, and obviously if you have to shoot up a school or you are willing to commit suicide, there's a mental health aspect there. I mean, Johnny Go Happy doesn't just wake up one morning and say, hey, I'm just going to end it all just because it's Tuesday. It doesn't happen like that. It's more along the lines of something was building. And so, and here's another thing, not to deal with it through medication or exercise or anything like that. Maybe you just need to reach out to people, or maybe we all need to reach out to people a lot more. I know I can't be blamed for not reaching out to people, because if anyone knows me, you know that it's a regular thing that I do, and partly to have conversations with people about anything, really. And sometimes somebody just needs somebody to talk to. Suicide is a really big problem right now. So is mental health, and those two things go hand in hand. But social media is like a stepsister of this shit too. And it's not that the house is on fire that we really need to be worried about it, but it needs to be talked about a little bit more, especially when you have people with the best job in the world that get to travel to the farthest reaches of the globe to try the most unique types of foods, to meet the most unique types of people, to have the most unique types of political conversations. I mean, shoot, who would want to end that? And on this note, I'll just say that I wish that everyone's having a good time this year. If not, DM me. We can talk. I'm not saying I'm your guru or any kind of Tony Robbins or anything, but it's good to just talk with people, and even on the phone. And stop texting and Facebook messaging as much. Pick up the phone and call people. It's more personal, and that's another problem with social media. Is that people before social media, people used to pick up the phone and call people, or sit in the living room and have a conversation. I think that human element is being lost. And that could be part of the problem too. I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm just presenting these problems as I see them, as they come into my world, and maybe trying to stimulate what might be a problem on your side. And if anybody has anything to say, please comment on this video or shoot me a DM, and I would love to talk about it. Other than that, rest in peace, Anthony Bourdain. I was a huge fan of yours. One of the only few people that I can say I've been jealous and envious of. And I spent hours watching him and never thought he would do anything like this. And on that note, Sean, thanks for just getting here. But we're going to be done with this one. And I hope everyone's doing good out there. If you're not, talk to somebody. All right. Peace and love. Hey, we got some good interviews coming up this week and in the following week, but I was just made aware of a certain particular court case that I'm sure we all remember, the gross murder in Arizona, the Mesa, Arizona PD, who killed that dude in the hallway. Well, the officer that pulled the trigger was let off, but the commanding officer who was giving all of the commands and pretty much intensifying the situation, he still has charges against him, and they moved for a motion to dismiss those charges in court, and the judge pretty much said no. So that guy Langley, who was the commanding officer, the one that was being super aggressive and giving the commands, even though he didn't pull the trigger, he's still going to be brought up on charges. Now, this guy left and fled for the Philippines, so I'm not sure if he's going to be asked to come back. But if anyone's seen that video that happened in Arizona, with the hotel shooting with the officers, where someone said he had a gun, but no, he's an exterminator. He has a pellet gun that he uses to do his job with, where he's on the ground, and they're telling him to, put your leg up and touch your ass and then float. Don't. He goes to adjust his underwear because they're making him pretty much slide on the ground, and then they shoot. They pretty much execute him right there in that hallway. The commanding officer was the one being aggressive. The guy that pulled the trigger, him getting let off, is a little bit suspect to me. But the guy who was being the aggressor, pretty much was the one escalating that situation. And it goes like with the same thing with Charles Manson. He never set foot in one of those houses where those murders were committed, but he got a death sentence because he was the one influencing the situation. So good news in that front. Daniel Shaver had a wife, and it was just one of the most gross things that I've ever seen in my whole entire life, the way that he was killed like that. So good news that the commanding officer, they moved to get the charges thrown out or get the charges dismissed, but that commanding officer Langley is going to be brought up on charges. I hope that this is a lesson that we could all learn from, and and I hope there's some kind of justice for that family, because what happened there was gross. It was an assassination. It was an execution. Mesa, Arizona PD is also involved in another similar situation that just happened. The body cam and the bird's eye view happened. Camera information just came out. I think it was Friday, where it was almost a similar situation. They're asking someone to comply, but this guy was basically just doing nothing. He wasn't. He was just kind of leaning against the wall, and they assaulted him. And that Mesa, Arizona Police Department has a lot of work to do to clean up their act, because it's just gross what's coming out. And it's cool to say that guy Langley is going to be. They moved to dismiss his charges. Once I get more information, I'll try and spread it. This just seemed like too long of a Facebook post to do, so I just decided to go live, and I want people to be aware of this particular situation. And I don't demonize cops as a whole. I view each individual case as an individual case, but this one was probably the grossest one that I've ever seen. And good news on that front. That guy who was being just ridiculous is going to now hopefully be brought up on charges, and that family can get some closure. So we'll have some good interviews coming up this next week. I think we're gonna have 2, and then there's a bunch more in the making, and I'll let you know when and where and who when we get all that stuff sorted. But anyways, happy Sunday. Hope everybody is enjoying themselves.